Have you ever walked into a room and noticed how some men just own the space without saying a word? They don't chase attention, yet somehow everyone notices them. Women can't stop thinking about them, and other men quietly respect them. It's not luck. It's not some special charm they were born with. It's something deeper, something powerful. See, the men who leave a lasting impression, the ones women fear losing, have mastered a mindset that sets them apart. They don't beg, they don't chase, and they definitely don't cling. Instead, they carry themselves with quiet confidence, like they know something the rest of the world doesn't. They've built a life so full, so meaningful, that losing anyone, even her, wouldn't break them. And that's exactly what sparks the fear. The fear that she might lose a man who doesn't need her, because he's already whole on his own. Today, I'm going to break down the powerful psychological strategies behind that energy, not through manipulation or mind games, but by mastering your mindset and living with purpose. If you get this right, you won't just become desirable, you'll become unforgettable, the kind of man she doesn't want to lose. All right, if you're ready, let's dive in. Number 1, live like you're already whole. The most magnetic men, the ones who leave a lasting impression, are the ones who don't need anyone to complete them. They're whole on their own, and that's exactly what makes them so powerful. Think about this. When your life is already full, when you're driven by your own purpose, your own goals, and your own passions, you send a message without even trying. I'm not waiting for someone to complete me. You wake up every morning with a reason to get out of bed. Not because you're chasing approval, but because you've built a life that excites you. You hit the gym because discipline is part of who you are. You pursue your interests because they matter to you. You're surrounded by people who challenge and inspire you. Whether she's there or not, your world keeps turning. And when a woman sees that, when she realizes you're not relying on her to fill some emotional void, something powerful happens. She starts to feel that quiet fear, the fear of losing a man who doesn't need her because you're already complete. Most people, men and women alike, are out there searching for someone to fill the gaps in their lives. But a man who's whole, a man who's genuinely content with himself, that's rare. And in life, rare is valuable. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing people or clinging to things outside your control. It comes from mastering yourself, from aligning your actions with your values, from finding strength in your own sense of purpose. When you live like that, when you become that man, you radiate a calm, quiet confidence. You stop chasing. You stop proving. And that's exactly what makes her take notice. Because here's the truth. If you're constantly available, always bending over backward, always trying to keep her interested, there's no challenge, no mystery, no value. But when you're a man with a mission, when you have a life that's rich and meaningful on its own, you become different. You stand out. Because suddenly, keeping you isn't guaranteed. And when she realizes that, that's when the fear creeps in. The fear that if she doesn't step up, someone else will. And that fear, it makes her value you in a way she never would if you were just another guy trying to win her over. Number 2, choose peace over drama. When you start living like a man who's whole on his own, something changes. Suddenly, you stop bending over backward to keep people happy. You're no longer chasing approval. And that shift, it doesn't go unnoticed. At some point, she's gonna test you. Maybe she stirs up drama out of nowhere, picks a fight, questions your loyalty, or throws emotional jabs just to see how you'll react. And this is where most men slip up. They take the bait. They argue back, raise their voice, or scramble to explain themselves, desperate to prove they care. But when you react like that, you're sending the wrong message, that you're afraid to lose her. And once she senses that fear, her respect for you starts to fade. That's why a Stoic man does something different. He values his peace above all else. His mind isn't controlled by her emotions. It's rooted in calm, steady confidence. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it best: a wise man values his tranquility above the approval of others. So when she lashes out, when she accuses you of not caring or throws words designed to pull you into chaos, your best move is simple. Pause, breathe, and with calm certainty say, "I'm not going to argue with you. Let's talk when we're both calm." Then you move on with your day. No anger, no frustration, no chasing. That silence, that calm detachment, it's powerful. Because instead of giving her the emotional reaction she was expecting, you leave her sitting with her own thoughts. Now she's wondering, why isn't he fighting back? Why isn't he panicking? Does he even care? And the more she wonders, the more valuable you become. Because the man who doesn't get dragged into drama, the man who refuses to trade his peace for chaos, is the man who's in control. See, most guys believe that proving they care means chasing after her during an argument, raising their voice, explaining themselves, doing whatever it takes to fix things. But all that does is show you're too afraid to lose her. A man who values his peace, he doesn't cling, he doesn't argue, and he doesn't waste his energy on someone trying to shake his emotional balance. Here's the truth you need to understand. The man who's calm under pressure, the man who's willing to walk away from drama instead of feeding it, that's the man she doesn't want to lose. Number 3. Embrace the power of controlled absence. Here's where things get interesting. Because when you've mastered the art of calm detachment, there's another powerful move that sets you apart even more. Knowing when to step back. See, sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate her. It's about creating space, the kind of space that forces her to feel your absence. If you're always available, always the first to text, always dropping everything to meet her needs, you become predictable. And predictability, it's the quickest way to kill attraction. But when you pull back, calmly, confidently, something powerful happens. That comfortable feeling she once had, that belief that you'll always be there, starts to shift. Suddenly, her mind races. Why hasn't he texted me yet? Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Or worse, is someone else getting his attention? And that fear, the fear that she might be losing something she once took for granted, makes her focus on you more than ever before. But here's the key. This isn't about ghosting or trying to punish her. It's about value. People only truly value what they believe they could lose. By stepping back, by focusing on your own path, your own goals, your own life, you create the space for her to recognize your worth. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it perfectly. He who is self-sufficient fears nothing. And that's the mindset you need to carry. When you know your life is full, when you know you'll be perfectly fine with or without her, you're no longer controlled by fear. You're not chasing, you're not clinging, and most importantly, you're not afraid to walk away. That's what makes her fear losing you. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've built a life that's rich enough, meaningful enough, and powerful enough that her presence feels like a bonus, not a necessity. When you can step back calmly and without bitterness, you send a powerful message. I'm good with you, but I'm also good without you. And that's the kind of energy that shifts everything. Because a man who isn't desperate, a man who knows his value, that's the man she doesn't want to lose. Number 4. Unapologetic self-respect. Do you know, the strongest, most magnetic men are the ones who know their value and refuse to compromise it. See, once you've built a life you're proud of, once you've mastered your emotions and learned to step back when necessary, there's one more thing that sets you apart: unapologetic self-respect. Because no matter how attractive you are, no matter how confident you seem, if you don't respect yourself, neither will she. Self-respect isn't about arrogance. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about knowing deep down what you deserve and never lowering that standard for anyone. Imagine two men. The first man is always available. He bends over backward to keep her happy, even when it means ignoring his own needs. He tolerates disrespect, lets her cross boundaries, and constantly tries to prove he's good enough. Now imagine the second man. He's calm, steady. He knows what he brings to the table. If she crosses a line, he doesn't yell or argue. He calmly speaks his mind and stands firm. If she disrespects him, he doesn't plead for her to stop. He makes it clear that behavior won't be tolerated. Now ask yourself, which man does she respect? Which man does she fear losing? It's always the second man, because self-respect is magnetic. A Stoic man knows that his dignity is priceless, and he won't trade it for anyone. No matter how much he cares about her, he doesn't beg for love. He doesn't tolerate being mistreated. And if the relationship ever demands that he betray his own values just to keep her around, he's willing to walk away. That kind of man is rare. And when something's rare, it becomes valuable. The moment she realizes you're not afraid to lose her because you value yourself too much to put up with disrespect, that's when the fear creeps in. Not because you threatened her, not because you played games, but because she knows deep down, a man like you doesn't come around often. So don't hesitate to set boundaries. Don't be afraid to calmly say, "I'm not okay with that. I expect to be treated with respect. If this continues, I'll have to step away." And when you say those words, mean them. Because a man who sets boundaries once but folds the next time just because he misses her, that's not self-respect. That's insecurity in disguise. But a man who stands firm, calm, steady, and certain of his worth, that's the kind of man who's unforgettable. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself?" So ask yourself, what are you really willing to tolerate? What lines have you been ignoring just to keep the peace? Because when you start living with self-respect, when you stop settling for less than you deserve, you'll notice something powerful. You won't need to make her fear losing you. She'll feel it all on her own. Number 5, become a moving target. Once you've built self-respect, once you've learned to value your peace, and once you've shown that you're whole on your own, there's one more thing that keeps you unforgettable. You keep moving forward. See, the biggest mistake most men make isn't being too nice, too available, or even too emotional. It's getting comfortable. They get into a relationship, and suddenly they stop pushing themselves. They let their ambitions fade, their routines grow stale, and that fire they once had, it dims. And here's the harsh truth. The moment you stop growing, you start blending in with everyone else. Relationships thrive on energy, on movement, on the sense that you're a man who's going somewhere. When you're constantly improving, leveling up in your career, sharpening your mind, challenging yourself physically, you become exciting, unpredictable, inspiring. And when a woman sees that you're always moving forward, always chasing growth, it plants a powerful thought in her mind. What if one day he outgrows me? That thought, it sparks a quiet fear. The fear that if she doesn't keep pace with you, if she doesn't match your energy and ambition, she might lose you to someone who will. It's not about making her insecure. It's about being the kind of man who's always expanding his world. Because when you're constantly improving, you become a man she wants to hold on to, not out of fear, but out of admiration and respect. Heraclitus famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." The river is always flowing, always changing, just like you should be. You're not the same man you were yesterday. And if you're living right, you won't be the same man tomorrow either. That constant evolution doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you harder to replace. Now picture two versions of yourself. One who's stuck in the same routines, repeating the same days, following the same habits, letting time pass without purpose. And the other? He's always moving, building new skills, deepening his knowledge, improving his health, and reaching new goals. Now ask yourself, which version would she fear losing more? It's always the second one, the man in motion. Because the man who's growing, who's constantly becoming more, is the man who others notice, respect, and admire. That's the kind of man who doesn't chase, because he's too busy chasing his own potential. So don't slow down, don't settle. Keep moving forward like that flowing river, steady, strong, and unstoppable. When you live with that mindset, you won't need to make her fear losing you. That fear will come naturally when she realizes you're a man who's always rising, and she'll want to rise with you. Number 6. Master the power of selective attention. By now, you've built self-respect, learned to value your peace, embraced the power of absence, and committed to constant growth. But there's one more key to making her fear losing you, and it's something most men overlook: mastering the power of selective attention. See, attention is like currency. The more freely you give it away, the less valuable it becomes. Most men don't get this. They pour their attention out like water, texting her constantly, replying the second she messages, always showing up the moment she calls. They think they're being thoughtful, but what they're really doing is making themselves predictable. And predictability? It's the death of attraction. But a man who knows his worth? A man who guards his time like a treasure? He's different. He's not cold or distant, but he's not always available either. Some mornings you text her first. Other mornings, you let her wonder what you're up to. If she messages you in the middle of your workout, your meeting, or your time spent pursuing your goals, you take your time responding. Not to play games, but because you're genuinely focused on what matters most, your path. And that's when the shift happens. Suddenly, she's not so sure where she stands. She starts to notice the space you've created, and in that space, her mind begins to race. Why isn't he chasing me like before? Did something change? Is he losing interest? Or worse, is someone else getting his attention? And that's the moment the fear creeps in. The fear that she might be losing a man who isn't chasing after her like the rest. But here's the key. This isn't about mind games or manipulation. It's about having a mindset rooted in value, understanding that your time, energy, and focus are precious. A Stoic man doesn't hand his attention out cheaply. His presence is earned. His focus is intentional. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are consumed by chasing her, when you're constantly worried about keeping her attention, you lose the very energy that made you attractive in the first place. But when you shift your focus back to your purpose, your growth, your mission, you naturally become that rare kind of man who stands out. Because a man who doesn't beg for attention, a man who knows his presence is a gift, that's the kind of man she doesn't want to lose. Number 7. Stand firm in your boundaries. Once you've built self-respect, mastered your emotions, and learned the power of being less available, there's one final piece that ties everything together, and it's this: standing firm in your boundaries. Because no matter how calm, confident, or successful you are, if you allow her to cross your boundaries without consequence, you send a silent message. I have no standards, and nothing kills attraction faster than that. Here's what most guys get wrong. They think being understanding means tolerating disrespect. They think letting things slide will make her appreciate them more. But in reality, every time you allow her to push your limits, whether it's insults, manipulation, or careless behavior, you lose a little bit of her respect. But a man who values himself, he handles things differently. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't argue, he doesn't try to win the moment. Instead, he calmly asserts his boundary, without anger, without drama. And if she continues to push, he steps back. Imagine this: she's upset, emotions are running high, and suddenly she starts insulting you, trying to provoke you, drag you into her chaos. Most guys react immediately. They argue back, defend themselves, or worse, they beg her to calm down. But not you. Instead, you look her in the eye, calm and steady, and say, I'm not going to continue this conversation if it's going to be disrespectful. When you're ready to talk with respect, we can continue. Then, without shouting, without bitterness, you leave the room or end the call. That silence, that absence, it's loud. Because in that moment, she realizes something powerful. Your presence isn't guaranteed. And suddenly, she's no longer in control of the situation. You are. See, most men chase when things go wrong. They panic, they apologize, they scramble to fix things, even when they weren't the ones at fault. But when you calmly walk away from disrespect, when you show her that you'd rather protect your peace than win an argument, you become the kind of man she fears losing. Not because you threatened her, not because you played games, but because you showed her, without a word, that you know your worth. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the mindset you need to carry. You don't control her behavior, but you do control what you allow in your life. Your boundaries aren't there to punish her. They're there to protect you, your peace, your dignity, your self-respect. And here's the truth. If you enforce your boundaries once, but then back down the next time just because you miss her or want to avoid conflict, she'll know you're not serious. But if you stay firm, calm, consistent, and unshaken, that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when she realizes that losing you isn't just a possibility. It's a reality if she continues to cross the line. And that's when her respect deepens. Because deep down, people don't respect what's easy to push around. They respect what's steady, solid, and unwavering. So if you want to make her fear losing you, not through manipulation, but through quiet strength, stand firm in your boundaries. Because the man who respects himself enough to walk away from disrespect, that's the man she knows she can't replace. Number 8. Radiate quiet confidence. Once you've mastered the art of setting boundaries, once you've shown that you won't tolerate disrespect, that your presence is earned, not given, something powerful begins to happen. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop proving. And that's when you unlock one of the most magnetic qualities a man can have: quiet confidence. This isn't the kind of confidence that's loud or boastful. It's not about puffing out your chest or trying to impress her with words. No, this kind of confidence is calm, steady, and effortless. It's the look in your eyes when you know you can handle whatever life throws at you. It's the way you carry yourself, relaxed yet certain, like a man who trusts himself. See, when you don't feel the need to constantly prove your worth, people sense it. And that energy, it's magnetic. Think of Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic leaders in history. He didn't walk into a room demanding respect. He didn't shout to prove his authority, yet his presence commanded it. Why? Because his confidence wasn't performative. It was rooted in who he was. That's what quiet confidence does. It speaks louder than words ever could. And here's the thing. When a woman senses that you're secure within yourself, that you're calm, collected, and focused on your own path, something starts to shift in her mind. Suddenly she's wondering, why isn't he chasing me like other guys? Why does he seem so at peace, like nothing phases him? What if he doesn't need me as much as I thought? And that's when the fear creeps in, the fear that she could lose you. See, most men make the mistake of overcompensating. They try too hard to win her over, texting constantly, over-explaining themselves, or rushing to fix every problem. But all that does is reveal insecurity, the fear that if they don't do enough, she'll leave. But the man with quiet confidence, he doesn't operate like that. If she pulls away, he doesn't panic, he stays calm. If she starts testing him, he doesn't react, he holds his ground. And if she threatens to walk away, he doesn't beg her to stay. Because deep down, he knows that no one, not even her, defines his worth. And when she senses that strength, when she realizes that you're not afraid to lose her because you know you'll be just fine without her, that's when her mind starts to race. Is he losing interest? Does he have better options? What if I lose him? But here's the best part. You don't have to force this feeling. You don't have to act confident or pretend to be detached. Because when you focus on building your life, when your time, energy, and focus are dedicated to your growth, this kind of confidence becomes natural. So let her wonder. Let her feel that quiet uncertainty. Not because you're playing games, but because you're too busy pursuing your goals, mastering your mind, and building a life of purpose to waste time chasing anyone. Because the man who doesn't need her, but chooses her, that's the man she fears losing the most. Number 9. Master the balance between desire and detachment. Once you've mastered self-respect, set firm boundaries, and embraced quiet confidence, there's one final piece that ties everything together. And it's this: mastering the balance between desire and detachment. This is where most men get it wrong. They either lean too far into attachment, constantly chasing, constantly needing her attention, or they swing the other way and act cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But the real power? It lies in the middle. See, the ultimate key is this: desire her, but never need her. When you want her in your life, when you genuinely enjoy her presence, but you remain perfectly fine without her, you create a powerful tension. Because here's what happens: she feels your desire, but she also senses that your world doesn't revolve around her. She knows you care, but she also knows that your peace, your purpose, and your sense of self come first. And that's rare. Most guys lose themselves in relationships. They forget who they were before they met her. Their hobbies fade. Their focus shifts. They trade their goals for her approval, and they don't even realize it's happening. But a man who lives by Stoic wisdom, He's different. He knows that love, real love, doesn't require losing himself. He knows he can care deeply while still standing firm in who he is. The Stoics put it beautifully. Love with all your heart, but never at the cost of your dignity. That's the balance. Caring without clinging, loving without losing yourself. And when you live like that, when you show her that you desire her, but refuse to need her, you instantly become more valuable. Because suddenly, she's faced with a powerful truth. You want her, but you don't need her. That creates a tension she can't ignore. She starts to wonder, what if one day he just walks away? What if he realizes he's better off without me? What if someone else steps in, someone who matches his energy? That fear, that uncertainty, is what makes her value you more. But here's the thing. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's not about playing mind games or acting cold just to make her chase. It's about genuinely knowing that your life, your happiness, your peace isn't something she controls. When you master that mindset, when you care deeply yet remain emotionally grounded, you become the kind of man who's rare, the kind of man who stands out, the kind of man she doesn't want to lose. So go ahead, desire her fully, enjoy her presence, love her if that's where your heart leads you. But never forget this: the moment you need her to feel whole, you give away your power. Instead, be the man who can smile, say goodbye if you have to, and walk away with your head held high. Not because you didn't care, but because you refused to betray yourself just to keep someone around. And that quiet strength is what makes you unforgettable. At the heart of it all, the key isn't to manipulate her or play mind games. It's to become a man so grounded in his own worth that losing anyone no longer scares you. When you build a life filled with purpose, when you master your emotions, protect your peace, and stand firm in your values, you stop chasing. Instead, you naturally draw others in. She won't fear losing you because you forced her to. She'll fear it because she knows you're the kind of man who doesn't have to stay. And that's powerful, because the man who knows his worth, the man who can walk away with calm confidence, is the man who holds all the power. So focus less on making her fear losing you, and more on becoming the kind of man she can't afford to lose. Not by words, not by tricks, but by living a life so full, so meaningful, and so purpose-driven that your presence alone becomes the rarest thing of all, a gift. Thanks for being with Stoic Heart on this journey today. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. We'd love to hear your thoughts or suggestions for future topics, so drop a comment below. See you in the next video.